event. Take advantage of the O'Reilly Auto Parts Do It Right rebate and get a $20 O'Reilly gift card by mail when you buy a set of Brake Best Select pads and a pair of rotors. O'Reilly Auto Parts, better prices every day. Limits apply. See store for details.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
If your Bronco or F-150 or LeSabre is bucking, it could be from a clogged injection system. A wonder of modern technology, fuel injection systems, like tiny water pistols, squirt precise amounts of gas into each cylinder. But like clogged arteries, when injectors become restricted with debris, gas flow slows. Result? Vehicles that stutter and waste fuel. For healthy injection systems, don't depend on the cavalry. Once a year, pour a double dose of injector cleaner into a full tank of gas. Run that tank out, then replace the fuel filter. I'm Bobby Likis. Like us, you'll love us. Hi, I'm Bobby Likis with today's Car Clinic Minute. Petri dishes, grandma's parlor, and well-used tennis shoes. All breeding grounds for yucky mold. Don't wrinkle your nose, 'cause you've got one too, in your car. When we come back, I'll tell you where.
O'Reilly.
If your vehicle isn't stopping like it used to, visit O'Reilly Auto Parts for the Spring Brake Deals event. Take advantage of the O'Reilly Auto Parts Do It Right rebate and get a $20 O'Reilly gift card by mail when you buy a set of Brake Best Select pads and a pair of rotors. O'Reilly Auto Parts, better prices every day. Limits apply. See store for details.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Your car's heater and air conditioner provide the perfect breeding ground for smelly mold and mildew. Here's a tip to eliminate these odors. Disconnect the AC compressor before starting your car in the morning. Set the emergency brake and crank your engine. Run your AC on max and in the recirculation mode. Then spray a small can of Lysol in the passenger's foot area behind the glove compartment. Let dry 1 hour and reconnect the compressor. Voila! A car that will smell fresher all season. Now for those tennis shoes, I'm Bobby Likis. Like us, you'll love us.
Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 3-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour.
I forgot to look at mine.
Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 1-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark.
So I'm not sure that machine.
Countdown to 30-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 10-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. If you have a car question for Bobby, call now at 1-800-264-5454, toll free from anywhere in America. And now, here's your host, Bobby Likis.
And a special good morning, folks. Welcome to this edition of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Glad to have you join us right along with me this hour, and I'll take your car questions. Jonathan will actually take your questions at 888 Car Clinic. That's 888-227-2546, 227-2546. So I have some information about car buying trends, and it's very interesting because the trends are sort of in line with the fact that we're all sort of staying home these days because of the COVID-19. And there are fewer bricks and more clicks. And I'll tell you a little bit about that as we go along, but the fact is that other than riding around looking at an automobile, the face-to-face dealership has to be very rare these days. And I will tell you what's really not rare, and that is the fact that the internet. There's more time and more people than ever before, and it's amazing. I just wonder from time to time just how much load the internet can take. But being that it's all electronic, I imagine that's dictated by the servers and your server. And make no mistake about it, we are all throttled down. What does that mean? It means the internet can do 100,000 times more than what we think it can do. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is brought to you in part by O'Reilly Auto Parts. I'll tell you a little bit about that when I come back from the break. In the meantime, let's get your calls in early at 888-227-2546. I'm your host, Bobby Likis. You'll love us. Folks, you never want to get surprised by a dead battery. A vehicle's original battery generally lasts about 3 to 5 years, but many fail long before then. Next time you're in for an oil service, have the technician test your battery. Better now than too late. Today's vehicles have start-stop systems, navigation, radio amplifiers, electric fuel pumps, 25 or more onboard computer modules, and serious electronic controls that depend on a strong, fully charged battery. Make sure the car you're driving has a healthy battery. Make yourself a note. Go to autobatteries.com and see for yourself how a battery can keep you safely driving down the road or put you on the side, just like that. At autobatteries.com, you'll see battery technology, battery testing, how to choose the battery, how to jumpstart your battery, and more about AGM batteries, my choice. I'm not here to make you a battery expert, rather to help you better understand why a reliable battery is essential for your road trips. Go to autobatteries.com. All automotive parts are not created equal. In the service bay this week, a 2015 Mustang V8. Owner dealing with sluggish performance, poor fuel economy, and the dreaded check engine light. We retrieved trouble codes for the left bank O2 sensors, shorted heater circuit, and left bank's rich fuel mixture condition. Time for new oxygen sensors. The vehicle had about 150,000 miles, and its owner sheepishly admitted he'd always use the cheapest fuel he could find. Definitely a recipe for failure. We called the customer, recommended installing new Motorcraft oxygen sensors. The customer agreed, so we installed the new sensors, cleared the codes, and performed a road test. The fuel trims returned to normal, and the car ran great. No codes reset. Another quality repair using Motorcraft replacement parts. Motorcraft parts are specifically designed for all your Ford and Lincoln repairs and are backed by a limited 2-year unlimited mileage warranty, including up to $150 in labor and with no commercial exceptions. Motorcraft, right part, priced right. Learn more about Motorcraft oxygen sensors and other high-quality vehicle-specific parts at motorcraft.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
P. Outfitters, I'm Tina. How can I help you?
I'd like to place an order.
Great. Which item?
The cotton roll neck sweater, large.
Okay. Periwinkle, Loden, or caramel?
The caramel, please.
The what?
I'd like it in caramel.
Oh, the caramel?
Yeah, that's what I said, Tina.
Actually, you said caramel when it's pronounced caramel.
Can't we just call it yellow?
No.
Everyone knows the best part of a Milky Way. They just don't know how to say it. After all, it's our caramel.
It's caramel.
Ugh, that makes a Milky Way great.
You start my morning, you stir in my soul, you warm my heart, make me feel whole. Your aroma calls me, starts my morning, happy morning. Your name is Folgers Mountain Grow. Now you're here, your aroma helps me wake, and the day is mine to take. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
Okay, let's get started with today's program. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. When your battery goes dead, oh, heaven forbid, folks, everything comes to a stop. Don't take a chance on getting stranded. O'Reilly Auto Parts will actually test your battery for free, and if it does need to be replaced, they can help you find the exact battery that fits your car or truck at a guaranteed low price, just to make sure your vehicle's prepared for the weather ahead. Get your battery tested for free at O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts, better prices every day. Your calls, 888-227-2546. Next, we'll go to Joseph, who has a Prius. Joseph, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Bobby. Bobby, I called you a couple of weeks ago about oil changing on the Prius, and after I hung up, I don't think I heard you correctly, but did you say that when you change the oil on a Prius to be careful the car doesn't start?
Yes, on hybrid vehicles. In fact, what I would really need to do is I would need to get sort of an overview from Johnny Bars. Johnny Bars, as you know, is our master. He's a Jedi in the service shop. He's a master ASC certified technician. Not only a master, which means that he's certified in all 8 categories, but he also has taken classes above and beyond that. So he's sort of a postgraduate. I mean, he is that and more. And we were talking one day, and he said, these cars they can surprise you because there's a possibility that the engine would start. And I'm not sure, Joseph, under what circumstances that can happen. But I can tell you the last thing that you'd want any automobile to do while you were under the hood or under the chassis, or if the engine had no oil, would be for the engine to light off. And I don't know under what circumstances, but I do know that is a possibility. So my advice to you would be, do you change your own oil?
No. I just got the car about in December.
Yeah.
And it don't need an oil change yet. But I was just wondering if I heard you right, because I didn't think I did, but I guess I did. It could start if I'm under there, then change it, or somebody.
Yes, there are some circumstances in which that could happen, and to that end, I was trying to think of another particular set of circumstances. I do know this, and I'll give you an example of how some of the cars are designed today. Number one, let's say it's let's see what kind of car this was. Let's say it's a new Nissan, and you service the vehicle. And I mean, you bring it into a service shop and service the vehicle, or the dealership. Let's say the car's brand new. When you open the hood, and of course you crank the engine to do whatever it is you're testing, and maybe you change oil and filter, you open the hood and you crank it up and you look for oil leaks, which every time you service a car, you should check your work, whether you're changing the oil or putting a belt or whatever. So when a Nissan is cranked up with the hood open, and then the technician said, okay, it's all ready to go, and wipes his hands and shuts the hood and it brings the car around to the customer. There's a possibility, and I'm not sure what particular lines that follow this, that the start-stop system doesn't work. And the reason for that, and that makes sense, because there's a start-stop system. Of course, you pull up to a traffic light, you step on the brake, the engine goes dead, and then if you let off of the brake the least amount of reduced brake pressure, and I tried this many times on my 13 model Jag, because I don't like the start-stop, and the engine will come to life. But when you actually have the hood open and you've driven the hood, that start-stop feature will cease to work altogether. And I can only imagine that maybe that is also a safety function based on, now granted, a Nissan and Toyota, 2 different vehicles, but when you see some design flaw or some potential problem with having a specific engine that would fire up, let's say it would, for whatever reason, would start up by itself. That's the most dangerous situation. So the Nissan folks, for some reason, have designed their car so that when you crank the engine with the hood open, the start-stop mechanism ceases to function. Now, the good news is it will, through a number of restarts, and I don't know what that number is, but through 1 week or 2 weeks or 50 starts or whatever they call it, drive cycles. And a drive cycle is like you parked your car today, Saturday, so you parked it in the garage last night, and you crank it up this morning like me, and I drove to the studio. That's a drive cycle, albeit not a complete cycle, because there's no way that any engine and all of the fluids in that engine, including the coolant and the oil, can reach operating temperature in the short 5 miles that I come to work. Actually, it's a little less than 5. So what we all think we're short distance driving is really terrible on oil because of condensation buildup. And I can take the oil breather cap off my vehicle, and I've done this, and look at it, and there's a caramel coating, which is really oxidized moisture within the oil cap. And I've actually had one last week where a gent called and he said, Bobby, I've got a Ford EcoBoost and my wife drives 1 mile to work. And he said, I take the oil breather cap off and there's water droplets in there, which is, that's all, the vapor rises to the top and it collects on the underside of the cap. So for all of those reasons, and there's a lot of extra information that I share with you, but it's interesting because the way vehicles are manufactured and the way they're automatic, those automatic processes could be harmful to someone who is unknowing. And to that end, Joseph, the water pump, for instance, on a Prius, those are very expensive because there's more than one water pump on cars these days. Some cars have 3 pumps, and most cars have 2 thermostats. And you say, well, gosh, why do you need 2 thermostats? Well, think about it. Where's the heat in an engine? It's on top of the piston, right? It's in the heads, right?
Right.
All right. So if you crank the engine up, which part of the engine gets hot the fastest? Well, the top of the piston, secondary only to the combustion chamber. So the piston actually gets hot, and the manufacturers say, here's what we need to do. We need to make this engine get as hot as it can, as quickly as it can. And if you were to open the thermostat when the cylinder head got hot, which you got to do because you can't crack a gasket or warp a head, then the bottom of the engine is not hot. So what they do is they use a conglomeration of, and if you were to see this, you would say, who in the world made this? Think of a gas mask where you got the hose and you got the nozzles and you got the screens. You can feature that, right? Well, now add another 5 nozzles onto a gas mask with nozzles sticking out everywhere. That's what a thermostat housing looks like on a lot of cars these days, because the engines are made to recirculate all of the water in the top of the engine first without circulating any water in the bottom half of the engine, and yet they're using the same water pump for the most part, not yours, but they use the same water pump. So here you've got this little upper half of the engine in its own little whirl that gets hot quickly, because the hotter it gets, the quicker it gets, or not the hotter, the quicker it gets to the operating temperature, the cleaner the engine is in emissions and the better the economy. And that's why if you never turned an engine off, you could put millions of miles on it. And manufacturers have done that. They put a car on a racetrack, not to race it, but a racetrack at 75 miles per hour. You probably could get 5 million miles, well, not 5. You probably could get 2 to 3 million miles on any new car if you were to put it on the track, and the only time you stopped it was to get gas and take bio brakes and change drivers. You know what I'm saying? Because start and stop is the death knell for automobiles. And I'll share this with you. I've got a heartbreak coming up. And folks, let me invite you to call in, 227-2546. I'll share a story, and Joseph, you can hang on if you like, or tune in. I'll share a story when I get back from the break about a part that I took a test in for a non-for-profit. It was a tribologist, and that's an oil specialist, and we tested what was called IntelliStick. IntelliStick, I removed the dipstick from the engine of a 2006 Mini Cooper, and I inserted a wire with a transmitter on the end of the wire. And when I come back from the break, I'll tell you the rest of the story. And I took place in, or took part in checking oil protection and life. When I come back, I'll tell you the rest of the story. Coolant leaks are never fun, but they can be especially challenging if you're far away from home and repair shops are closed, like many are right now. It pays to be prepared. Keep an emergency road kit in your vehicle, and inside should be a number of items, including K-Seal. K-Seal is a pour-in solution that helps stop cooling system leaks. It features ceramic technology, designed to repair the leak without clogging. K-Seal is available nationwide at parts stores like Advance Auto Parts. Check advanceautoparts.com for store hours and shipping options. As we kick off National Car Care Month in the midst of COVID-19, making sure your vehicle is road ready has never been more important. The Car Care Council remind you it's the perfect time for a thorough check of various vehicle maintenance items, like brakes, batteries, tires, cooling system, filters, headlights, and the exhaust system. Visit carcare.org to find out how you can best keep your vehicle safe and dependable. It's National Car Care Month. Are you car care aware? Learn more at carcare.org. That's carcare.org. Folks, this week we had a 2010 Jaguar XF come in with a complaint that the owner could not fill the gas tank. Tommy, our ASE certified technician, scanned the electronics, tested the module that sends the signal to the gauge, and even removed the back seat and fuel tank access cover to determine exactly how much gas this car really had. It was only 3/4 tank, just as the gauge read. He also checked our database for any relevant TSBs. Great move. Seems Jaguar had issues with some filler necks. We called our local O'Reilly Auto Parts store and asked them to help us locate the parts needed, as there is no local Jaguar dealer. Much to our delight, our local O'Reilly Auto Parts manager found the part, ordered it through his partner stores in another city, and we were able to repair this customer's car without her having to drive to the dealer in another state. We may have taken a bit longer to complete this job, but we made a new customer happy, and she'll come back to our shop whenever she needs any future services. This Car Repair Spotlight brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices, every day.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
The airlines like to have sales. Summer getaway sales, holiday sales, winter sales. Truth is, at any moment, some airline somewhere is on sale with low fares to great destinations. Travelocity knows exactly what's going on, who's on sale, to where, and when, at over 700 airlines worldwide. We even have this nifty feature that lets you look at a calendar so that you can see exactly the days the great fares are available. Travelocity.com. Go virtually anywhere. AOL keyword, travel.
Hun, guess my temperature.
It's 2 a.m. Go to sleep.
Come on, one guess.
I'm 98.
Higher.
Higher at 99.
You're getting warmer. Wait, I'm getting warmer.
Cold symptoms keeping you from getting a good night's sleep? Get NyQuil, the nighttime sniffling, sneezing, coughing, aching, stuffy head, fever so you can sleep better to feel better medicine. Use as directed.
One more guess.
100?
Yes. Tell her what she's won, Bob.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back, folks. Thanks for joining in every Monday, every Saturday from 10 to noon Eastern Time. We come to you, so we appreciate you tuning in. And I know that many of you are at home today versus out and about, and so I invite you to call if you have a car question, or if you just have a comment, or you want to talk about a local shop in your neck of the woods there, your neighborhood, across the nation that did you a good deed. Share that story. Okay, we're talking with Joseph, and we're talking about changing oil and a variety of other things. So, Joseph, there's a doctor, I forget his last name. I apologize. It's been several years. But he was at the University of Michigan, and he invented a device called IntelliStick. An IntelliStick replaces the dipstick on engines and was connected to a computer, black box. And the IntelliStick measured the amount of condensation in the oil. It measured the oil temperature. In fact, it only started to take readings when the oil reached 110 degrees, which is, pretty quickly. And then it measured all of the oil, if it would, whether or not it would pass voltage, or whether or not how much consistency, viscosity, thickness, and things like that. So I took part in that. And there were 105 people across the nation that took part in that test. I was the number one oil in all of those. Now, at the time, I used in that engine, let's see what I used. Purple, purple oil. Yeah, I used it. Royal Purple. Sorry, I got a throat issue here. So I used Royal Purple. But what I didn't tell and what I didn't share was I also added to Royal Purple a booster shot. And a booster shot was another dose and in fact, it was 12 ounces of a straight synthetic oil additive. So in essence, I was adding more slick properties, phosphorus and other things that are used in racing engines, to that oil. And it was a program that I created and I invented and trademarked. And what this means is that in oils, as in any coolant or differential gear lube or transmission fluid, there are additives that protect it. In oil, there's detergents, and there's viscosity improvers, enhancers, and there's chemicals that stop friction and those sorts of things, or at least reduce the friction. In fact, there are additives that are used in racing oils that are not legal for the street use, and so there's no oil that you can buy on the market today that meets the same. Gosh, I'm struggling here because I don't want to be too technical. If you run a NASCAR race engine, you do not use the same oil that any of us can buy on the street. Fact. Even though Castrol and Mobil One and all those oil manufacturers sponsor those race cars, this is not the same oil out of the can that you and I use. Now, having said that, the reason for that is the EPA has determined that some of those chemicals damage catalytic converters. So it is the manufacturers that guarantee the catalytic converters for 8 years or 80,000 miles or 10 years, and their number one goal when they design a car and tune a car is to protect the catalytic converter, not for performance of the engine, to protect the catalytic converter first, and emissions, and then gas mileage, and then performance. So I said all that to say that in my car, my records, and what I did was I would download wirelessly from this collection black box every Sunday night the week's driving. And then on Monday, I would email that data to the company called Instituform, and that was another for-profit organization that was going to sponsor this IntelliStick. Anyway, long story short, the reason for the IntelliStick was made for, not for individuals, because the unit was about $500. It was made for fleets, so that a fleet of trucks, let's say you're UPS or you're FedEx, and you got 100 trucks in a local city, and they all come back to the barn at night, and then they use a boosted Wi-Fi that covered 1,000 feet, not 30 feet, as Wi-Fi covers, but 1,000 feet, and you park those trucks in the yard at night, and all of that information is downloaded. And then in the next morning, someone monitors the engine, and so they know of the 100 trucks which top 10 were overheated, which oil had moisture in it, and so it is a fabulous way to determine and to monitor the condition of the engines. So now we won that, but in winning that, and that was I think it was a 6,000 mile test. over some 8 to 10 months is what it took me to put 6,000 miles on this vehicle. And as a result, when I got the report back, ours was the #1 in the nation. And the reason is because I was supercharging the oil with a booster shot. And that's a fact. And I know that's information that you didn't ask for, but it's definitely engine oil at half-life. Let's say you go, how often do you change oil in your Prius?
Well, I haven't changed it yet because, like I said, I just got it in December, and the sticker says 5,000 miles or 6 months.
Right.
I ain't not going to do 5,000 miles in 6 months.
Right.
So I guess in 6 months I'll change it, right?
Yes. Well, I would go 6 months. I would do a half year, and if we had tested like I did my Mini Cooper, we had tested your oil and we looked at it. I got my report back, and I knew that I had driven 6,000 miles in this 9 months or whatever it was, and yet on the report, it appeared as though I had driven 12,000 miles, and it was what I'd measured is the number of hours that I'd driven the car, and when I looked at the 6 or 8 months or that I'd driven, and I knew that I had driven the car at the most an hour and a half a day. I mean, that was really it, 2 hours a day, and yet I'd gone 6,000 miles. How can you go? Anyway, the hours didn't match like a Hobbs meter in a generator. The hours tested did not match the miles driven. You see where I'm going?
Yes.
And so I mean, in other words, if you drove 100 miles an hour and you drove 2 hours, you can only put 200 miles a day if you only drove 2 hours, even if you drove 100 miles. And yet my test showed that I was driving 5 hours a day. And here's what I didn't realize, and here's the point. I've gone sort of around the barn here to get to the point. But here's the point. The measurement that was taken on the oil started at 110 degrees and went all the way to operating temperature, 220, 230, 240, and it also continued to measure the oil until it came back to 110 degrees. So I never thought about that. I only thought about, hey, I only drove 4 miles to work, or I only drove 50 miles, or I drove 300 miles. But when you turn the car off, in my mind, well, okay, everything stops. Wear and tear stops and what have you. That's not the case at all. When an oil, it gets hot, and you turn the engine off, it stays hot. In fact, the engine rises in temperature about 30 degrees when you turn the engine off. And it still continues to cook and coke oil in the combustion chambers and what have you. So we all think, well, hey, we've only driven it like you. Yeah, I'm going to change the oil in 6 months because I won't drive 5,000 miles in 6 months. But lo and behold, every time you crank the car up and you drive it and you turn it off, there's still activity going on because temperature doesn't go on and off. You know, it builds up and then it cools off, but it takes time. And so it was kind of a revelation to me as to why condensation is such a factor in engines and why engines wear. And then we've all heard the worst thing you do is start an engine, because the first time you start an engine where all the wear is, because there's no oil, and oil has to get to the far regions of the engine. And that's why skinny oil or 5W20 oil or 020 oil is so important. And now with the GL6 rating of oil, you're going to see 016 oil and 08. So what that means is the heaviest viscosity of 016 is 16 weight, and 16 viscosity. And so why then can we use oil that is so thin? It's because the tolerances in today's engines are so tight, and that means that the engine will last longer, but it also means that the engine puts out fewer emissions because there's no combustion pressure, not as much, getting by the rings because the rings are tighter sealed. So it's really amazing to me at the technology that's going on in engines. And your Prius, I'll tell you, Fabio is our producer, and he's on his second Prius. And the only reason it's on his second because the first one got totaled. I mean, although it had some pretty rough-looking paint on it, I joke with him about that all the time. But he put 200,000 miles on that vehicle, and the only thing he really ever did to it was put a battery in it at 200,000 miles. So it's just amazing. So you'll have a long, enjoyable relationship and use out of that Prius. We have replaced an ABS module in one of those Prius cars, and that was rather expensive. Because Johnny had to take the windshield wiper motor and the cowl apart and part of the engine. And, I got a picture of him with his hand waving from the inside of the car through the hole in the firewall where the master cylinder was, because it was all one unit. And that was expensive. It was an expensive repair. But that's about that and a front wheel bearing at 60,000 miles on another Prius are the only two, and a couple of water pump jobs, were the only two that I could think of that were expensive repairs. But anyway, hey, thanks for your call, and any other questions, I'll be glad to answer.
I got one more quick question for you, if you could answer it for me. The transmission oil dipstick, I've been on YouTube, I've been on the owner's manual. Nothing addresses where it is. Does it have a transmission oil dipstick?
It does not. Manufacturers have stopped using dipsticks almost altogether, and the way we service a transmission, there's two different ways to service a transmission, and when I come back from the break, I'll share that with you. It's very important. For those of you who are tuned in, give us a call at 888-227-2546. When I come back, I'll tell you about how we check transmission fluid and service and change oil. With 48 years experience in automotive repair, our service team knows what dirty gasoline does inside an engine. Over time and miles, fuel residue and hot oil vapors create nasty, hardened clusters of carbon that block airflow into cylinders, collect on valves, and build up inside combustion chambers, causing hard starting, rough idle, sluggish engine performance, and bad gas mileage. Solution? Berryman B60 High Mileage Fuel System Rejuvenator. B60 cleans the entire fuel system of all high-mileage gas-powered vehicles with powerful detergents and HEST solvents. That's high-energy solvent technology at work. B60 gives you one-tank cleanup of fuel injectors, intake valves, and combustion chambers. Restore lost power, reduce rough idle, improve fuel economy, and enjoy your drive again. Berryman B60 High-Mileage Fuel System Rejuvenator is the only fuel system cleaner with HEST solvents. Pick up a can at your local auto parts store today. For more, visit BerrymanProducts.com. That's BerrymanProducts.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Waking up can be a chore, but mornings knocking on my front door. Know just what I'll do. Put on a pot of Folgers brew. Mountain grown aroma hits the spot. Helps me give all that I've got. An opportunity to start out smiling and happy. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
I'm privileged to be involved with Capstone Adaptive Learning, formerly known as United Cerebral Palsy, for over 25 years. Since 1953, Capstone has provided quality care programs for persons with developmental disabilities like autism, cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, and intellectual disabilities. Dr. Sherry White with her team are dedicated to Capstone's clients, and 100% of your contributions stay local to serve those in this community. Go to capstoneadaptivelearning.org to see the difference Capstone makes.
Technology moves at the speed of innovation, and today, that's lightning fast. So when you get your hands on the latest tech, don't forget to do the right thing with your old devices. Recycle them. The Consumer Technology Association and its members are making recycling your old tech device as easy as purchasing new ones. Just go to greenergadgets.org, type in your zip code, and you'll instantly find the responsible recycling location closest to your home. You'll also find lots of tips to simplify your recycling, like asking the store where you buy your new TV if they'll haul away your old one. Television sets, video game consoles, smartphones, tablets, they're all recyclable. Don't let them clog up your local landfill. Just visit greenergadgets.org. You're sharp enough to get the latest tech tools into your home. Now be responsible enough to get your old devices to the recycler. That's greenergadgets.org.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic, brought to you in part by K-Seal, folks. It pays to be prepared. Make sure you keep a bottle of K-Seal in the trunk of your car so you can stop potential coolant system leaks. You can find K-Seal at part stores nationwide like Advanced Auto Parts. Check the store website for hours and shipping information. And remember, if you have a coolant leak, water pump, head gasket, you name it, don't just seal it, K-Seal it. Okay, we're talking with Joseph, and I'll invite you to call 888-227-2546. So, Joseph, one last point about transmission checking of fluid. Since there's no dipstick, how do we check fluid? Well, if you do not have a transmission leak, and it's easy enough to determine, then there's no it's not necessary to check the fluid level, because there's no way for the fluid to be leaking unless the radiator cooling system, and there's a heater core or a cooling core inside the radiator. Well, it actually does both. It heats up the transmission fluid, and it also cools the transmission fluid. And so there are lines running from a transmission, automatic transmission, to the radiator. Sometimes that core within the radiator core will leak, and you'll get transmission fluid in the coolant. And of course you know that because you can see it in the overflow, and it's milky and those sorts of things. But by and large, that's not common these days. So how do we check fluid when we exchange and use? We have a machine when we service transmissions. So that machine has imagine a propane gas tank. And what we do is we'll put 15 quarts, 12 quarts of transmission fluid in that propane. It looks like a gas tank, but it's separated in halves, and there's a rubber bladder that separates the new fluid from the old fluid. And so the machine then, with the engine running of your vehicle, the machine will pump, actually the vehicle pumps fluid out of, because we hook it to the coolant line, out of the transmission. And when that fluid goes out, it pushes against that bladder, and for every ounce of old fluid that pushes out of that, it pushes new fluid in. And we use, even if the transmission only held 10 quarts, we would use 12 quarts of fluid so that you don't get any old fluid mixed in with the new, because in essence, you're still putting new fluid in the transmission when you have some old fluid in it. So that works really well, and I would say it gets probably 95% of the old fluid out. And for a long time, people thought, well, that causes problems if you've got and some of those transmission fluid exchange machines had pumps of their own, because like a Ford doesn't have a lot of pressure on the coolant lines, and it will take forever to change and service the transmission, and a lot of cars. So that was not the case at all, though. You can't damage a transmission by taking the old fluid out and putting new fluid in. And you're not going to damage a transmission by stirring up everything that's on the bottom of the pan, because there's no reason for anything that's laying in the bottom of the pan to be stirred up anyway. So having said all that, with regard to how to test it, if you take 10 quarts out and you put 10 quarts in, you don't need to check the fluid. But what if it's a drain and fill? Or what if you had to fix a leak and you just had to top it off? You know, in other words, you pull the pan to put a new pan gasket. Or you, for whatever reason, you pulled a rear extension seal and had to replace a bushing. A lot of those oil pans in today's automatic transmissions are not there to drain the floor of the pan. There's a standpipe in that recess. And so when you take the plug out, nothing comes out unless there's too much fluid, and then the fluid drains because that plug, it only exposes a pipe that is welded and extends up maybe 1.5 inches on the bottom of whatever level. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's how we check the fluid. And then other cars, Jag for instance, there's a screw, a closure plug that is elevated and on the right rear of the transmission case, so you fill the transmission, and then you actually you fill the transmission, and then you actually wait until the fluid runs out. Anyway, enough of that. I just wanted to, answer your question, and I thank you for calling, and have a great day. Be safe and take care.
Thank you, Bobby.
Thank you, sir. Okay, 888-227-2546 is the name. I mentioned car buying trends. Fewer bricks, more clicks. This is really some interesting information, folks. The all-day experience of car buying is going to go away. I mean, think about it. Because there are buyers that are already doing a lot of legwork online, but we're moving beyond shopping and price comparison. Buyers may soon do some test driving using virtual reality. Think about that. Now, how cool is that? They'll be able to play with all the different feature options and start configuring their dream car in the comfort of their home. Now, you can sign me up for that, because when I look at buying a new car, and I've done it recently, I look at buying a new car, I go through that website, and I'm impressed by I'm not impressed by some websites, and I'm really impressed. One of them is a Genesis. A Genesis has a terrific website where you can configure the car, and you can change the color of the car. You can open the door of the car. You can let the window down. You can sit in the back seat and look at the front driver's area. You can sit in the front seat. You can do a 360-degree roll inside the car. Really, it's trick, but it gives you the feeling of being in the car. So you're still going to have to go to the dealership and test drive the car, maybe a base model, but after the test drive, you can go to a connected kiosk in the dealership and, give their creation a few tweaks and order your own car. So that's the way we are going in the real world today. And that's just one of the things. Here's another, faster changing demographics. And what are demographics? Well, the concept of generational compression, whatever generational compression means, was introduced by the Future Hunters, who were also guests of the Car Buying Trends website, and they gave several presentations at a national event. And the general idea here is that as the industry looks to younger consumers, no longer will be grouping their generations by decades, but by the kind of technology they've grown up with. So think about that. I grew up with carburetors and standard transmissions. Today, people are growing up with computers and laptops and iPhones, and it's a different technology. Well, these generations could span a few, or as few as 2 or 3 years, because technology is changing so rapidly. Car makers and dealers will have to really be nimble to respond to the wants and needs of new waves of demographics. So, number 3, the rise of the cybrids. Cybrid? Cybrids are the up-and-coming generation, and they differ from digital natives because they have a symbiotic relationship with technology. And here in 2020, cybrids are expected to make up 40% of the consumers in the U.S., Europe, and BRIC countries. And BRIC is Brazil, Russia, India, and China. That's the BRIC countries. Cybrids are much more prudent from a financial standpoint. They're much more concerned about the environment, and they're eager to build a better planet. They're less interested in owning things and more interested in the time value proposition of what they consume. So that's really, what does all that mean? It means that we don't buy cars the way we used to. It means that we don't go to the dealership and drive the cars. It means that we'll be able to drive it and test drive a car virtually from our own comfort of our own home. And that really will give you an opportunity to try out the navigation system, push the buttons. All of those things are really doable and are being done today. Number 4, and I'll just share this, is called collaborative consumption. While the industry may previously have seen ride sharing as a threat, and I think we all thought about that. If we're all going to Uber, who's going to buy a car? And I thought about that. Well, are they going to put the car makers out of business? Well, no, because they got to make the cars the Ubers drive. So, you know, you think about it. Well, now they're working on a variety of ways to embrace that whole ride sharing. The losses in terms of car sales that I mentioned probably aren't going to be as drastic as what I initially thought or people thought, because people who are driving for ride sharing are still driving those cars into the ground. So they'll be replaced more frequently. And you think about it. That's fact. That's creating new and distinct buying audiences, and a professional driver and a more occasional driver who cuts down on their driving by using ride sharing. So I said all this, and I want to back up just a bit. In 1997, when the Prius came out, I said, let me think about this. How much is the battery? Well, at that time it was $4,200 for a battery for a Prius. I said, okay, a used car that has 150,000 miles and needs an engine costs $5,000 to replace the engine. That's just a swag, but that's okay. So how many cars are there on the market that need an engine? Well, and then how many of those car owners that have not taken care of their cars and neglected their cars so that they need an engine at 150,000 miles? Because that's the only reason you need an engine at 150. I mean, you know, water pump loss and overheat aside, if you take care of a car, you can put 200,000 miles in a car, 250 easy. So then I equated that if we've got all these used cars out there that need $5,000 worth of batteries at 100,000 miles, I was using 100,000 as far as a battery on a Prius. Those cars people are going to trade those cars in. They're not going to spend that money, or they're going to be straddled with an expensive repair bill. So lo and behold, I was wrong. Why? Because batteries don't cost $4,200. They cost $2,800. Number one. Number two, there's a remanufacturing Dorman remanufactures batteries for Prius and for other cars. And so that's a least expensive plug-and-play battery replacement. So that just opened up more commerce. For every negative thing you can think about the technology, like, oh my God, computers or robots are going to put people out of work. Yeah, some people and some jobs, which will open up other jobs. Let's go to New Mexico and take a call from Tim. Tim, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Cleaning. Thanks for holding.
Thank you, Bobby.
Good morning, sir. What can I do for you?
I've got a 2017 Volkswagen Jetta. I've got 51,200 miles on it.
Okay.
I believe I've got a wheel bearing out. I'm very good at fixing my own vehicles, of all that I've ever had.
All right.
I cannot figure out which wheel it is. I can feel it through the chassis with my arm out the window, and I've driven past walls of buildings to see if I could hear the...
Yeah, I do that.
I've done circle left, circle right, in gear, out of gear, rolling in a mall parking lot. I cannot figure out which wheel it could be. You have any ideas?
I do. And in fact, I'm with you. In fact, sounds like you've been listening to me because...
long time.
Well, obviously. So you're doing the right things. You've done the right thing. So there's one more test. On a smooth road, make sure that there are no police behind you. On a smooth road with no traffic, you're going 35, 40 miles an hour, or whatever the sweet spot, whatever the noisiest speed that bearing makes. Veer to the right, veer to the left. And when you veer it to the right, you're putting all the weight, not all the weight, but more weight on the left side of the car.
Gotcha.
And vice versa. So if you veer to the, if you're going down the road and it's going zzz, 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 and you veer to the left, it goes zzz, 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 and you veer to the right, it goes zzz, and it goes away. When you veer to the left and it gets louder, you know that it has to be on the right side of the car, not front or rear, but it's got to be on the right side. You see what I'm saying? Because you're overloading.
Yes, I understand.
Okay, so you aggravate that weak spot, that noisy bearing, by overloading it, by veering left and right. And I don't mean steep. I mean just veer and veer and veer and sway and sway.
Understand.
Okay, good. You got it. So that'll give you, number one, the left side or right side. And then here's the easy part. You put it on a rack, and be careful because, you know, when you when you put a car on a rack and hang the wheels down and you run the car in place, the ABS doesn't like that. And so you'll trigger the ABS. So whoever does that, you can't go but about 10 or 12 miles per hour because it'll trigger the ABS. But you buy a mechanic's stethoscope. And a stethoscope will take, it's like me going like I'm touching the mic, which you should never do. A stethoscope is 10 times as loud, and then you with the wheels turning and someone in the car, driving car, 5 miles per hour, 10 miles per hour, you touch the bearing housing, and if you touch the right housing and you get I'm scratching the mic, then that's not very loud. But if you go over at a comparison to the other side and it goes, magnified 100 times, you say, hey, there it is. And I will tell you, we saved one of our customers who actually was the ex-CO of the Naval Air Station. We saved him $5,000 because he was told that he needed a third member, a differential on his BMW, and it was a right rear axle bearing assembly. And we replaced that. Anyway, glad you called, Tim, and thanks for tuning in from New Mexico. We're out of time for this hour, folks. But I'm going to take a break. I'm going to come back at 6 minutes after the top of the hour for the second hour of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Like us, you'll love us.
This is Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is a copyrighted presentation of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated and may not be reproduced or rebroadcast without the express written approval of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated.
Folks, there are a lot of things going on behind the scenes in a repair shop beyond diagnosing cars. Sometimes technicians get caught up in a repair that just keeps needing more. Recently, an 05 Saturn came in the shop. A 15-year-old car, 150,000 miles. Our young customer was dealing with a coolant leak, a slow, steady drip on the engine area on the driver's side. After a cooling system pressure test, we determined the lower radiator hose was leaking. We replaced the lower hose, topped off the system, and parked the vehicle. All good. Upon prepping for pickup the next day, you can imagine our disappointment to see coolant leaking from the right side of the radiator. A $500 repair. Our solution? A bottle of K-Seal, which can cost under $20. K-Seal features ceramic technology and is designed to repair leaks without clogging. One bottle completely solved the problem, sealed the leak within 10 minutes. K-Seal is available at fine retailers everywhere, like Napa Auto Parts. So when you have a cooling system that has a leak, don't just seal it, K-Seal it. For more information, go to kseal.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
If you're familiar with the classified section of the newspaper, you probably understand this message quite well. You see, in the classified section, everything gets abbreviated. Consonants, vowels, prepositional phrases, the very building blocks of our language are thrown right out the window. And that makes it difficult when you're trying to sell your car. You've got a limited amount of space to work with, and by the time you abbreviate the description of your car down to a couple of fragmented sentences, it sounds less like a car and more like a Bluck sedan with sniffed like new condition lemals. No wonder more people are selling their cars through eBay Motors. They can post unlimited text and photo descriptions, and with a nationwide marketplace, they're likely to sell it for more. Plus, both parties can be covered by eBay's Vehicle Protection Program. Buyers are happy, sellers are happy, and no one's abbreviating. eBay Motors, a better way to sell your car.
Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 3-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 1-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 30-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 10-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. If you have a car question for Bobby, call now at 1-800-264-5454, toll free from anywhere in America. And now, here's your host, Bobby Likis.
And good morning. Welcome to this hour of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Glad to have you join us. So stick around and ride along with me for this hour, and I'll answer your car questions. And I've got some information about everything from ride sharing to new buying trends, new engine oils, and but also I'll share with you the gas mileage, the gas prices rather, which are down this week from the same time last week and lower this week than same time last year. And that was true for last week. So every week we're seeing the price of gasoline reduced. The challenge is, I don't know how many of us are driving much these days. So I just hope, we can only hope that the gas prices will stay down after we recover from the virus, and then we'll all get a chance to use our cars again. In the meantime, you better keep your car in good shape. Bobby Likis is brought to you by Motorrad this morning, your first choice for vehicle thermostats, cabs, and engine management products like variable valve timing solenoids and oxygen sensors and mass airflow sensors. Motorrad will help keep your car ready for the road during these uncertain times. You can learn more at motorrad.com. That's motorrad.com. I'll take your calls when I come back at 888-227-2546. Let's go. Let's get started before we don't run out of time at the end of the program. 888 Car Clinic. I'm Bobby Likis. Like us, you'll love us. Entertainment systems, backup camera, start-stop technology. Just a few of the electrical demands we put on today's cars. AGM, or absorbent glass mat batteries, are up to the challenge. Precision engineered for the ultimate combination of power, durability, and reliability. One advantage, how acid is handled. Where it's free-flowing in a traditional flooded battery, acid's completely absorbed in the glass mat separators of an AGM battery. So in the event of a crash, AGM batteries won't leak. For more AGM advantages from Clarius, go to autobatteries.com. That's autobatteries.com.
O'Reilly! When you need auto parts, O'ReillyAuto.com is just a few clicks away. We offer convenient options for you to get your parts quickly. Order online and pick up for free at your local O'Reilly Auto Parts store. We'll even bring it out curbside. Or you can have your parts delivered right to your door with free shipping on most orders over $35. Visit O'ReillyAuto.com.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
You've heard me talk about Motorrad's leading the way with automotive thermostats, fuel, oil, and coolant caps. Now, Motorrad's using their expertise in Tier 1 OEM facilities to deliver advanced engine management solutions. Products like camshaft and crankshaft sensors, ignition coils, mass airflow sensors, even variable valve timing solenoids. And Motorrad's aftermarket products are designed and manufactured to meet or exceed original equipment specifications. Learn more about Motorrad products and industry-leading application coverage at motorrad.com.
These are the sounds of someone taking their eyes off the road. Texting while driving is more than distracting. It's dangerous. Do us all a favor. When you're on the road, stay off the phone. A message from CTIA, America's Wireless Companies, and the National Safety Council.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Another lending success story from LendingTree.com.
Car dealers like playing games. They play percentage points, they play markups, but I don't like playing with my money. So I got my auto loan through LendingTree.com. I filled out one simple form, a marketplace of banks and lenders competed over it, and I got 4 offers back within hours. After all, the car buying game is a lot easier to win when you're holding all the cards.
LendingTree.com. When banks compete, you win. For additional information and state license disclosures, please visit our website located at LendingTree.com.
Driving has a rhythm all its own. Don't wreck it with a text. Before you get behind the wheel, silence your phone. Or better yet, designate a texter. For more text-free driving tips, visit stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
I want to welcome you to this hour of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. So let's start off with a special welcome to an affiliate that we have in Oregon, actually in Portland. So it's our newest affiliate of the Car Clinic family, KBNP, the Money Station, AM 1410 there in Portland. A shout out to Keith Lyons and daughter Jennifer Lestat, officer and traffic manager, KBNP, AM 1410. Folks, we're really proud to be on your air there. And for the past 30 years, I don't know if you know this there in Portland, but Keith has been the general manager of Oregon's only all-business financial information radio station, KBNP AM 1410. So a special thanks to KBNP for your partnership with Bobby Likis Car Clinic. We appreciate you. In Portland, I want to hear from you. You can call now. We're live at 888-227-2546. That's 888 Car Clinic. Okay, so we were speaking earlier in the first hour about driving trends and buying trends, actually. Fractional ownership. What is fractional ownership? And this is according to the Future Hunters, which is a group that assembles and collates information. The average car, and get this, and this is something that I didn't really think about, sits unused for 94% of its life. All kinds of schemes are emerging to use cars more efficiently, unlike Zipcar, which lets members access multiple cars located around town. Multi-person leasing involves just one car, with multiple people sharing its use. So you think about that. These kinds of service could appeal to people who live in urban areas who rarely need to drive, but also to people who can't afford car ownership. And think about it. For example, it may appeal to recent college graduates who are struggling to save money to move out of their parents' homes, but don't have credit established or enough money for a down payment. So that's very interesting. It's called fractional ownership. And then last but not least of this great article that I'm sharing with you, driverless cars. There's a lot of excitement about this, although I don't think it's at all clear what it's going to look like and how long it's going to take. Manufacturers have made great strides with the technology, no question, but from a safety standpoint, there's still many things that are going to have to be done before you and I and the rest of the consumers trust this type of a vehicle. I've driven not a driverless vehicle, but I've driven a vehicle that has its own acceleration and braking and engine and those sorts of things. And it was a 2015 Kia K900. And it was a little scary. But I followed a car some 15 miles through certain traffics, including interstate driving and off-ramps and what have you. And the Kia that I was driving followed that car. I steered, but it accelerated and braked verbatim, exactly as needed. And of course, my foot was a half inch from the brake pedal the whole time because I said, oh, what if this, I don't want to run into the back of this car in front of me. And the bottom line, I didn't. And that car drove, that Kia followed my lead car all the way from the interstate to the back of my service shop and stopped when that car stopped. And that's when I changed my mind about self-driving automobiles. And I will tell you, we're going to see self-driving cars. That technology is there. And make no mistake about it, we don't have eyes in the back of our head, but a self-driving car has eyes 360 degrees, full-time, laser beams, and cameras, and radar, sonar. I mean, everything you can mention, LIDAR, all those things are part of self-driving vehicles. Anyway, I want to give a special thanks to Pam Chakot, the business development representative at Invoice Pay, the leader in payment automation software. A special thanks to Nadine Bubeck at Pitch Publications for sharing this information of car buying trends with yours truly here on Bobby Likis Car Clinic. So that's what I had to share with you on car buying trends. I thought was very interesting. A lot of that information you already know about, but may not have been top of mind. So you just think about gas prices, you think about the future of driving, and you think about the future of ownership automobiles. But there's one thing that will not change. Automobiles represent the transportation of our personal lives and our business lives, and that for sure will stay with us for a long time to come. Gas prices, let me share this with you. I think this is very interesting. 888 Car Clinic is the number to call, 888-227-2546. $1.92. I haven't quoted this price on Bobby Likis Car Clinic in 28 years that I can remember. $1.92 a gallon average across the nation. Let's see what the lowest price is. $1.62 in the Midwest, and even on the West Coast, where it's always $3.50, $4, it's $2.68 on the West Coast, and the West Coast, less California, is $2.45. Regardless, folks, if you look at the gas price from this time last week, and if you look at the gas price this week, same time last year, in every region of the United States, the gas price is lower. I think that's amazing, and it's as much as 82 cents lower on a national average, 82 cents lower than it was this time last year, the price of gasoline. So we'll take a call. Let's go to line 1, and we'll find out who's on line 1. Good morning. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Thank you for your call. What can we do for you? What's your name and where are you from?
Bobby, Tim Scott, I just called you a couple minutes ago about the Volkswagen.
Oh, yeah. Tim, welcome back. Let's pick up.
I didn't need anything for the car, but gas price here in Alamogordo, New Mexico, I'm looking at a gas station right now, it's $1.52.
That is absolutely amazing. Well, so Rusty Staley is our service manager, and I will tell you, he came in the other day. He said, you don't believe this. He went to, is it BK's? Is that what that is here in town, Fabio? It's BK's, isn't it? Yeah, that's a wholesale store. He got credits for, because you can get up to so much dollar credit, and he filled up his Excursion, which usually takes $100 to fill it. I mean, he filled it. Yeah, I'm serious, man. But hey, he's got 5 kids. He needs the Excursion, and he filled up that vehicle, and he paid. It was $1.96, but he got 50 cents on. He got a $30 credit. Anyway, he filled a vehicle for like $35, and he was just ecstatic. Ecstatic about that. But I think that's unreal. That what'd you say the gas price was there in Alamogordo?
$1.52.
Well, that is absolutely amazing, and something I learned, and I don't know, for years I was trying to figure out who makes gas prices and what have you. I know what some of it is, but really 70% of the gas price is determined by the price of crude. So now that crude is down, I don't know what crude is today, but somewhere in the $20 range.
Wow.
I mean, I remember when crude was over $100 a barrel. You remember that? Gasoline?
Yes.
In fact, and there was a good and bad of that. Gasoline was like it got close to $5 a gallon. And we had a station, and still do, there in Moses Lake, Washington. And they were talking about someone called from that area, and there was a remote gas station up in the mountains. And they had to truck, of course, the gas up there, and they didn't have a lot of traffic, so I guess that was on occasion. And gasoline at that time, as I remember, was $6.32 a gallon. And then I had a gentleman to call me, Tim.
Gosh.
I mean, unbelievable. I had a gentleman to call me from Australia and from the UK. And the UK, the gentleman says, well, if you think it's $6 there, it's $13 a gallon here in the UK. So
Oh, my.
Yeah, really, oh, my. And I'll tell you something else. One last thing before I let you go, and thanks for calling back. When you think about gasoline at $3.85 to $4.50, that's where I found the choke threshold was for the general public of the United States. That's when people said, hey, let's look at Prius cars. Let's look at EV cars. Let's look at the Tesla. Let's look at these. And so those prices, those high prices, and really kicked off and helped, along with Elon Musk, of course, the rejuvenation of EV cars, electric cars, and we're still going to see that to come up. Hey, Tim, thanks for calling back. We got a hard break, going to come back and take a call from Daytona. Don't go away, folks. Being car care aware is important all year round, but winter is an especially critical time as harsher conditions can strain your automobile. Here are a few items to check, courtesy of the Car Care Council. Winter means shorter days and longer nights. It's a great time to make sure interior and exterior lights are working properly, and don't forget to make sure your headlights are properly aimed. This item is often overlooked. The best way to warm up your engine in the winter is to drive gently at the start. Make sure your ice scraper and snow brush are accessible, and replenish your emergency kit. Jumper cables, a flashlight, blankets, extra clothes, bottled water, non-perishable food, and a first aid kit with any medication that may be needed. It may seem like a lot, but better safe than sorry. For more great tips, videos, and recommended service schedules, visit carcare.org. And while you're there, order a free copy of the Car Care Guide for your glove compartment. That's carcare.org. Today's Repair Spotlight is for gasoline-powered engines with 60,000 plus miles. At this age and high mileage, vehicles can develop irritating small oil leaks that can make a mess and ultimately cause serious damage to engine and chassis components. The solution? Berryman's B60 High Mileage Oil System Rejuvenator. It's simple to use and safe for engine components like catalytic converters and oxygen sensors. Berryman B60 High Mileage Oil System Rejuvenator cleans and protects the crankcase and engine oil system on all gas-powered vehicles, and conditions and revitalizes seals and gaskets to help stop oil leaks. Berryman B60 High Mileage Oil System Rejuvenator contains zinc-based ZDDP and molybdenum moly to help fight friction, heat, and wear. It helps prevent sludge formation to maximize engine performance and life. Don't put up with those pesky oil leaks. Add some Berryman B60 to your motor oil and add another level of protection for your engine. Learn more about Berryman B60 and other great products at berrymanproducts.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Telephone tip
from Geico Auto Insurance.
When calling Geico to switch your car insurance, you will not need acetaminophen, naproxen, indomethacin, ibuprofen, a cold compress, an on-call acupuncturist, or any other pain remedy. In 15 minutes, you could save 15% or more. If it were any more painless, you could do it in your sleep, which is theoretically possible since we offer complete 24-hour service. Call 1-800-947-AUTO, 1-800-947-AUTO. Geico Direct, the sensible alternative.
When I grow up, I want to be a new pair of blue jeans.
When I grow up, I want to be a kid's first computer.
I want to be a warm place on a cold day.
Football
I want to be a
stadium.
bike that races around the country.
I want to be a bench on a forest trail.
When I grow up, I don't want to be a piece of garbage. And if you recycle me, I won't be.
Give your garbage another life. Recycle. Learn how at iwanttoberecycled.org. Brought to you by Keep America Beautiful and the Ad Council.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
Hey, glad to have you join us on Bobby Likis Car Clinic today. Thanks for tuning in. Bobby Likis Car Clinic again is brought to you by Grundy Insurance. Jim Grundy. Now there's a knowledgeable fellow about classic cars, and you can protect your prized collector car the right way with Grundy Agreed Value Insurance. Read that, write that down. Grundy Agreed Value Insurance. What is that? Well, it gives you 100% of the value of your car in the event of a total loss. You can learn more at Grundy.com, and you can establish a value on your car with the folks at Grundy, and it will never be reduced. In fact, you can review the value every year if you've added or upgraded. Maybe like I spent about $6,000 on my classic Porsche this year alone. Well, I'm sorry, in 2019. on air conditioning upgrades and other suspension upgrades and even the surface paint upgrade. And I called and increased the value of my coverage. For more information, check out Grunde.com. Let's take a call from David in California. David, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Good morning, Bobby.
Good morning, sir.
We've had conversation before, but I wanted to talk to you about the 66 GTO that I bought in November. It's a restored car with a 389 engine, built original.
Okay.
And the owner told me to use Dello 1540 oil in it.
Wow.
It seems like a heavy oil. There's claimed to here is not coal. So I'm questioning whether that's the proper thing to use.
Well,
and whether or not I should use regular or premium fuel in it.
Well, I would use, well, I don't know. We don't know what kind of compression the engine had. I would probably go, well, it depends. Let's talk about the oil first. 1540, I would, that's okay. It really is okay for that engine. And I say that's okay because in my classic Porsche, and I've got a air-cooled, and it's a 2.9 air-cooled engine, and I've used 2050 oil in that engine forever, and it works fine. And the engine has, the car's got 99,090 miles on it, and it runs as new, and the engine's good for about 300,000 miles with maintenance, which I've performed, and yet it doesn't have the clearance issues. Well, clearance is not an issue with that engine, and clearance is not an issue with your GTO. When I say issue, if you took a new car and put 1540 in it, you could damage the engine because the tolerances of the engine will not allow the oil to travel through the clearances because they're too tight. There's not enough room for fat oil. And so in your Pontiac, 1540 would probably work. Of course, the truth is 1030 would probably work as well. It might not have as much oil pressure at an idle. See, oil pressure is nothing but the resistance to flow. That's all it is. So if you've got heavy oil trying to run through a certain size bearing clearance, and you push a lot of it, you got feedback, you got pushback, and that's oil pressure. By the same token, if you use really, really heavy oil in a tight toleranced engine, you don't get any flow. You get a lot of pressure, but you don't get any flow. And if you don't get flow, you don't cool the bearings, you don't cool the engine, because oil does a lot more than just lubricate. It cools and it cleans and disperses the oil and what have you. So, David, if he's used a 1540 in the vehicle, Dello was a great oil. I don't have any issue. Can you still find that oil?
Oh yeah, I use it in my motorhome.
Okay, well,
it's, diesel oil. It's used the most diesel. I think maybe all in new diesel.
I see no downside for you to use that in a Pontiac. What was your second question?
Well, I've been putting premium fuel in it, but after listening to you, I think it was last week, talked about the regular and premium fuels, whether it's not needed in certain cars. But this car at the time it was made probably didn't have the octane that we have now. So am I right in using premium fuel?
Probably not. Probably that 389 Pontiac probably had about 9-to-1 compression ratio, and so the difference in octane is the anti-knock properties. That's AKI, anti-knock properties. And anti-knock properties means the formulation of the fuel's resistance to detonation, to not pre-ignition, but to knocking, or to the heat and the pressure causing voluntary explosions of fuel. And a knock is peeing in an engine is when you've got a lot of heat, a lot of pressure, and low octane gasoline, and you get voluntary ignition on one side of the combustion chamber and on the other side, and those two ignitions come together and ping, 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 and that's what you're hearing. That's different from pre-ignition. Pre-ignition will destroy an engine. Knocking or pinging will not damage an engine. And so what I would do if I were you, I would try 2 tanks of regular octane and see how the performance of the engine, and see if you could hear any pinging. And the only way that you're going to hear the pinging would be on an incline where you crowd the engine and kind of lug, or moderate to heavy acceleration. And so I think that you can be the judge of which one to use. Given the price of gasoline doesn't matter, because you're not going to use enough gas, the money doesn't matter. But if you use a lower octane fuel, you'll burn more of the fuel than you would if you had a higher octane. And if you burn more of the fuel, you'll have fewer emissions, and you'll have a better running engine, not necessarily a better power engine, but a better running engine, because you're burning more of the fuel and turning more of the fuel into heat. And that's where the pressure and that's where the power comes, or that's where the mileage comes from. So the short answer is, why don't you try a couple of tanks of low octane, and if you can't tell any difference, don't use the high octane. You got it?
Okay. You know, there's still hope for us car guys out there. We had a cruise in our neighborhood with the lockdown. The car shows are all gone.
Yeah, I know.
Somebody put on a cruise where people cruising around, people sitting on their porch and waves.
I saw that this morning. I was glancing through my car email, and I saw that about cruises, and I was going to mention that on the show, but I didn't have the time. But I'm going to talk about that. And thanks for reminding me. And just because we are social distancing in our cars, we can still ride around and have cruises. You can't stop and get out and go in a crowd. But anyway, hey Dave, thanks for calling, and thanks for sharing that information.
I would like to commend you too, also on your call back when you called back off the air on my Ford F-150 about the super chip and the button. I was so surprised when you called me, and at the point you called, I wasn't able to talk, and I know it sounded like you wanted to talk longer, and I had to leave. So you're really great at calling back and finding answers, so I appreciate it.
I thank you, David. I appreciate it's my privilege, and it's fun for me, and it just makes me feel, if I know the answer to something and I don't give you the time, that's just not the right thing to do, but it sure sounds good. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
You do.
Bye-bye. Neat guy. Let's go to Daytona. From California to Daytona, Chris, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Thanks for holding.
Hey, Bobby.
Hey, sir.
I had a problem with this Lincoln Town Car. It's got the soft close trunk.
Yes, sir.
And when you hit the fob, it'll open fine. You hit it, it'll close, but it won't close all the way and latch.
Yeah, it's
the
strip gears. It's a gear set in the latch itself.
It's a gear, okay.
And you can buy that aftermarket. In fact, I'll tell you, we've replaced I don't know how many of those. And you know what I think causes it, Chris? I think unknowing owners, only because you didn't think about it, tend to slam that deck lid like you would a regular deck lid. And I think that ultimately damages that unit, which only tells me that it wasn't really designed properly. But the bottom line, you can buy those, and if you're a do-it-yourselfer, you can replace it yourself.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'll give it a whirl.
Well, here's what I recommend, and
so
certainly
I could go to O'Reilly's, right?
Yeah. How'd you know that?
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? That's what I would do, and I would check, and you could just do that from the comfort of your own house. And by the way, you mentioned O'Reilly. Right now, there's a 15% discount when you buy a set of Brake Best brake pads and the 2 Brake Best rotors. So there are more reasons to go to O'Reilly than just good service. It's great savings. I mean, there are all kinds of savings going on. I'll give you a little list a little later on as we go down the program. But, hey, thanks for your call, and thanks for plugging O'Reilly. I appreciate that.
Sure.
Okay.
Oh, well, they helped me out with some air shocks that don't really fit this car, but, I mean, they're not, if you look them up, but he found some that worked, and they just worked great. And it's not a different car, it's Grand Marquis.
Well, there you go.
I got it. Can I ask you a follow-up question?
Sure.
This is on the Grand Marquis.
Okay.
I've got these air shocks. is there, and I use an air, a bicycle pump to pump them up.
Yeah.
And then they'll leak down, and I've had my mechanic go through them, and he says, well, they're just going to leak down. Can I put a little air pump up underneath the car somewhere and put a little toggle switch and toggle that up?
So years ago, in 1973, for 10 years, I owned a sports coach motorhome, and it had airbags within the front coil springs that you also had to air up. On that vehicle, I installed an air pump with a gauge, and I put that on a vehicle monitor that I made, a very, very sophisticated 17 by 20 inch by 4 inch tall wooden specially coated dash monitor that I made for the dash, and I did a lot of other things that I incorporated, but part of it was a use of a air pump, and I hooked directly to the airbags, and I could adjust the pressure on the fly. So you can do that. There's nothing wrong with that, and it's easy enough to do. It's a great project, and just you look on. I think I would look online for air pump kit, and you should be able to find the air pump kit and hoses, and then have a gauge. But you definitely want to use a gauge, because those air pumps can pump 150 pounds psi. You don't want to use that much. You'll blow a bag out, and so do that. But yeah, hey, thanks for your call, Chris, from Daytona. When I come back, we're going to take a call from New York and another Daytona call from Freddie, Jesse, and folks, 888 Car Clinic. Don't touch that dial. I'll be back. Folks, recently a 99 Chevrolet Blazer came into the shop. The owner was having problems with hesitation upon acceleration. He'd already changed out several parts: spark plugs, wires, ignition coil, mass airflow sensor, fuel filter, and the air filter element. He even changed the thermostat and coolant temperature sensor. Still had the same problem after putting a lot of money in this car, and he was frustrated. We dug a little deeper, cleaned the throttle body, and checked for trouble codes. No codes. So we recommended Berryman B12 Chem Tool. Carbon deposits and dirty fuel injector nozzles are a common problem with drivability in late model engines. We also recommended a higher quality gasoline. The customer noticed improvement on the first day, and only a few days and a few hundred miles later, the problem was completely gone. Berryman B12 Chem Tool features HEST, Berryman's exclusive high-energy solvent technology. The result is a more complete combination of available chemical technologies. Drive to BerrymanProducts.com for more information. That's BerrymanProducts.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
More than 1 million wild animals are killed each year illegally. Poaching is a major threat to our country's wildlife. I'm Tom Barry. I'm an actor with a desire to preserve living space for wildlife. The Humane Society Wildlife Land Trust does just that. Works with private landowners to protect wildlife, to preserve natural habitats. To learn more or to work with the Humane Society Wildlife Land Trust, call 800-729-SAVE. That's 800-729-SAVE, or visit wildlifelandtrust.org. Thank you.
Did you know 26 million Americans have kidney disease and most don't know it?
The day I was diagnosed, I didn't know what to do. I called the National Kidney Foundation, and the young lady who answered stayed on the phone with me and walked me through step by step. She too was surviving kidney disease, and she showed me there could be life after kidney disease.
Visit the National Kidney Foundation at kidney.org. Now you know.
We're a land of cynics. We don't believe anything anymore. You know why? Because we've been told we've won $1 million, that it's new and improved, that it slices and dices, that our favorite singer is still alive, that we'll be prosecuted if we cut off the tags, and of course that everything is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee. So when we hear the words customer service, we don't believe it. Travelocity isn't surprised if you're a little skeptical when they say they have excellent customer service, and that there's actually a pleasant face behind this website, a living, breathing person with a supercharged computer full of answers. Someone who's willing to help when you get lost, and most of all, someone that will actually pick up the phone when you call with a question or a concern. Customer service is just another example of how Travelocity puts you in control of travel. Chances are you'll never have to use it, but it's good to know it'll be there if you need it. Travelocity.com. Go virtually anywhere.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. I want to remind you, 888 Car Clinic is the number to call. That's 888-227-2546. And it's important for you, especially in these troublesome times that we're having, that you think about your car. And I know that you're not driving as much. I know that gas price is down, and I know that we're all sort of restricted. But the bottom line, and this is a great idea and a great time for you to know that April is Car Care Month, and our partners at the Car Care Council said it's never been more important to keep your vehicle safe and dependable, and I agree. In fact, I recommend, folks, you visit carcare.org. That's carcare.org for a number of fantastic tools and tips and service schedules and videos and more, so that you'll know what's really important about what you should keep to maintain your automobile and what you should know. Check them out. Go to carcare.org. Let's go to Daytona and take a call from Freddie, and then we're going to go to Jesse in New York, and then I'll take your calls at 888-227-2546. Freddie, good morning. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. How's Daytona this morning?
It's great. The weather's perfect. But my truck, I need to find out about that K-seal.
Okay.
I got a 92 S10, and I ran the water back into the block, because of the heater core.
Okay.
And I don't drive it much, and I thought before I put it in there, I better find out if that K-seal stays suspended or would it eventually sink to the bottom.
Well, that's I can answer that question in two ways. Number one, for sure, when you buy a bottle of K-Seal, you'll read the instructions. It says shake vigorously for 30 seconds, right on the bottle. And the fact that you have to shake it means that it has ceramic particles in it, and ceramic particles are heavier than the liquid that carries it through the engine. So the liquid that carries the engine is just like a fuel additive. In a 16-ounce bottle of fuel additive, there's only 2 to 3 ounces of active ingredient. The rest of it's a carrier. So as it is with K-Seal, you have to have some way to, you can't spoon feed like you can a child. What a visual that is. You can't spoon feed your car. So the ceramic particles and the chemistry that's used and created by K-Seal is meant to be shaken, and then you pour it in an engine. Once in the cooling system, once you pour that K-Seal in an engine and run it like it says for 15 minutes, then wherever it finds its nook or cranny or crack or seal, place that needs to be sealed, the ceramic and the chemical that goes with it, it's going to flow to and stop that coolant leak. And then the rest of it, some of it has to settle out. Sure, I mean, it's just physics. But for the most part, once it does its job, who cares? Because you're only talking about a teaspoon or an ounce. I don't really know how much is in an ounce of the ceramic particles. But anyway, that's kind of an interesting question. So the answer to that question is, yeah, I'm sure that some of the ceramic has to find a little happy home in some nook or cranny in the bottom of a radiator or in the bottom of a head. Okay. But as much flow as you get through a cooling system, I think it's a nit. I don't think it's really even. And I've never done a test, so I can't tell you how much of the contents will settle out. But they don't separate. Once they go into the cooling system, they flow with the cooling system until they find their happy home, which is good for you. So I don't think that's really something to be concerned about, but it's a valid question. Any other questions?
Well, I don't drive it that much. What I'll do, I'll probably just drive down to Cocoa and run it for about an hour. No, I don't have any more questions. But I was going to tell you, I have 3 of these S10s. One of them I let my brother have. He had it for about 10 years. He'd go fishing and stuff.
Right.
And it just rusted all out. And I figured out after he died, I used to go park over there where he was. And there'd be a storm and the water would hit the seawall, and it would just soak my car.
Yeah.
And that salt water, you know what it does. That's what happened to that one.
Yeah, I sure do.
I didn't realize that until I saw how that truck was rusted out. How don't park around that water when the wind's blowing real hard.
Well, you know, I live in Pensacola, Florida, but I live on a golf course community about as far from the salt water as you can get, and that is not an issue whatsoever. And people think about cars live in Florida, then they think about cars live in New York, and we all know that the northern climate and the salt on the roads and what have you really deteriorates and what causes rust. But that is not the case for Florida unless, like you said, you live where there's mist. And if you live on the beach, definitely you're going to get more. Of course, with me, I could live on the beach and not have any of that because the way I wash and clean my car, and I would treat the underside of my hood, with some lubricant. If I lived on the beach, I still wash about every fourth wash, which is about every month. I will open the hood and clean the underside of my engine, and when I do, I'll take a little dab of Blaster. I've got Blaster is a great product, and I use it for hinges, and I just lubricated, by the way, my garage door. They make garage door roller lubricant. Thank God that's the smoothest that my door's ever worked. And I put a dab of the lubricant on the hood stays of my car, because the hood stays, when you open and close it, there's gas-filled hood stays, and those things are expensive. And the only reason that they need to be replaced is because over time the nitrogen pressure leaks out the seal. So what I do when I clean the car, I will wipe down that seal, and I'll put a dab of lubricant around the exposed piston that comes out of a hood. You know what I'm talking about when I say hood stay, the shock, right?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So make sure you do that. And folks, if you hadn't thought about that, it's always good to the hinges of the car, the hinges of the door. I mean, there are so many things that everything that opens, everything that moves needs to be lubricated in some fashion. Anyway, hey, thanks for your call, Freddie, and thanks for always love to hear from Daytona folks.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. We'll take a call now from Owego, New York. Jesse, thank you for holding. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. How you doing, my friend?
Bobby, good morning from Concluse Central. No brakes and high speed at Shangri-La Speedway.
You're making fun of me. This guy's making fun of me, folks. So we took a race car there, and my driver went out, and he made about 4 laps, and he almost ran into the car in front of him because the car was outrunning him, and it slowed down in a turn, and he came into the pit. I'll never forget this. I shouldn't even tell people. He came in the pit. We jacked the car up. He says, "Bobby, don't have any brakes. Don't have any brakes." We jacked it up, and I took a hammer and I went bam, bam, bam on the back of the brake pedal. I mean, we brake drum. We had drum brakes, right? Well, that's because we didn't race on. We raced on bowl tracks where you didn't need brakes. And up there it was a flat track, and I said, "Okay, you're good now." And he went out. He came back in. He said, "You lied to me." He said, "The brake didn't help the brakes." I said, "Well, what could I do, man?" So it was fun. It was funny at the time, but it probably wasn't fun for him when he's trying to win the race, but he couldn't slow on the turns. Anyway, what'd you call for?
You can't ask for a better time, Bob. I'll tell you, it's hilarious.
No, I know it's hilarious. You should have been there.
Oh, man, I wish I was. Me and Captain Jim are on your YouTube.
Yeah.
And we were talking about the old hand crank engines. I have more scars on my hands and above my eye. Oh, those things were mean.
Well, the hand cranked engines, I've actually cranked a couple of those, and that was before my time, before yours actually. In the 20s and 30s. They made, and Henry Ford, what a smart individual. They retarded the timing so that when you pull the crank, by crank, and you crank the cylinder over, folks, this is before starters were made, and you crank the engine by hand. That was really quite a feat at that time. I can only imagine people out in the middle of the inclement weather, and it's raining, and you're trying to get a car to start off, and We've come a long way. We've come a long way, Jesse, since hand crank times.
Ain't that a fact? Especially when them things would, they would they would almost run backwards.
Yeah.
You go to wrap that rope around it and you pull it and the thing kicks back. Oh man, I'll tell you, that's the worst pain, like a kick in the knees.
Now, Jesse, let's fast forward to today's technology, and here's a fact. And there are cars that are on the road that are made this way, that have no starter. And how do they start? What the manufacturer can do, because the computer knows where the engine piston is, and let's say that we've got a piston that is 20 degrees after top dead center on compression stroke. That's where it just happened to stop. You could spray a little engine, you could spray a little fuel in that engine, in that cylinder, that one cylinder, and spark that one cylinder with the engine standing still, and that would burn the fuel and it would force that piston down, which would start the engine to turn. And that's how you can start an engine without a starter. And I will tell you, I don't have the time to expand on it, so I won't, but I will tell you that in 1963, I had the first high-performance 289, 271 horsepower Fairlane in the state of Florida, and I was in the shop one day tuning it, and I turned the distributor. I was setting the distributor up because I always pull the distributor out to set it up on a machine, and I put it back in the car, and I had turned the ignition on, but I forgot about it, and I actually turned the distributor to make it spark, and the engine started. And I was blown away, because that's the first time it ever really happened to me, and I made it happen one more time in my lifetime, and which was just amazing. Hey, got other calls, got to go, Jesse. Thank you for calling. Always love to hear from Owego and from my friends up in New York there.
You have a great day, Bobby. Take care, man.
Thank you. You take care and stay safe. Let's go to Illinois. Take a call from Steve. Steve, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Hello.
Hey, sir. What can I do for you?
Yeah, I'm wondering what kind of luck you think I would have to proceed with Chrysler to try to get them to pay for a battery of a van that's under warranty. I bought it 120 miles round trip for me, and I've got someone very sick with lung cancer and stuff, so I couldn't go back there, so I went to my local dealer, and I got the usual runaround. I just spent $20,000 for them 2 years ago.
Right.
And so long story short, I kept telling them, battery's bad, don't play the game with me, that we'll trickle charge it and blah, blah, blah. Well, that's what they finally did. He didn't even want to give me a loaner car to go home on. I said, if this thing's under warranty, you have to do that.
Right.
So I came back. He said the battery's fine. Well, it wasn't fine. And so I went back to AutoZone, had checked for the third time, bad, bought a battery, it's fine. So I'm gonna do the Chrysler thing that having the little booklet, but I don't know what kind of games they're going to play, and I wonder if you've had any of this kind of stuff happen before, because I won't quit.
Well, if you won't quit, you'll be successful. That's number one. Number two, for the life of me, it's ironic you should call me, because I'd hurt my shoulder, and I was at physical therapy. And one of the therapists walked over to me and said, Bobby, I have a question. You don't want to bother you, but I have a car question. Well, what am I going to say? And long story short, he drives a Toyota. He went to the Toyota dealer. The Toyota wouldn't start. They checked it out. They could not verify. It's under warranty. It was a 2018 model car. Really? This is fact. And it was under warranty. And the dealer told him, quote unquote, we can't prove that the battery is bad, therefore we can't replace it under warranty, but we recommend that you replace the battery and you buy the battery because we think that's what's wrong with it. And I said, well, would you repeat that? And he did. And I said, and the bottom line, he asked me what to do, and I said I would drive it until it stopped, and I would have them to tow it in. He said, last time I paid AAA to tow it in. I said, no. Next time you let it drive, and it'll put you down, and you get them to tow it in, and then they have to replace the battery. but it is beyond me why, and I know what happens. Some dealers replace parts, and then the manufacturer says, this part's not bad. But, you know, in the big scheme of things, batteries are so inexpensive, and who's to say a battery is bad? And you can't make me believe that the manufacturer is going to come in and test every battery that's replaced. So for the dealers listening in, and you got people like Steve here in Illinois, when the car won't start because of a low voltage, give the man a new battery and try it. Yeah. Let's try it. If it doesn't work for a month, you know, what is up with that? I'm with you, man.
And Bobby, he even told me, he said, I absolutely firmly believe that battery's no good. Chrysler will mess with you. And I said, so I spent $41,000 with you people with them and another dealer, and I was waiting to buy this.
I got you.
They don't care.
Well, somebody has to make.
I'll call you back.
You call me back.
Bobby, I'll call you.
All right, you call me and keep me posted. I'm out of time here, because let me tell you something. Consumer satisfaction drives retail satisfaction and longevity in business. And if you're in the business and you don't satisfy your customers, you will go out of business. And to that end, I'm out of time. So I'll see you next week, folks. Like us, you'll love us.
This is Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is a copyrighted presentation of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated and may not be reproduced or rebroadcast without the express written approval of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated.
Insurance 101, courtesy of Grundy Insurance. Uninsured motorist liability and underinsured motorist liability are both important aspects of vehicle insurance, as they can protect you against an at-fault driver who is not insured or doesn't have enough insurance. Important to note, the definition of who's insured refers to people, not vehicles listed on a particular policy. So the uninsured or underinsured limits you select for your policy for your everyday cars will transfer over to you when driving your collector car. Find out more at Grundy.com. That's Grundy.com. You regularly hear testimonials on our program where everyday drivers share their experiences with products featuring HEST, Berryman's exclusive high-energy solvent technology. As we all work together to get past COVID-19, Berryman remains steadfast in their commitment to keep developing products necessary so everyday people are able to drive dependable vehicles. Products like Berryman B12 Chem Tool, which can help remove carbon buildup on the engine and improve drivability. Learn more about Berryman B12 Chem Tool and other great Berryman products at berrymanproducts.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
P. Ricey Outfitters, I'm Tina. How can I help you?
I'd like to place an order.
Great. Which item?
The cotton roll neck sweater, large.
Okay. Periwinkle, Loden, or caramel?
The caramel, please.
The what?
I'd like it in caramel.
Oh, the caramel?
Yeah, that's what I said, Tina.
Actually, you said caramel when it's pronounced caramel.
Can't we just call it yellow?
No.
Everyone knows the best part of a Milky Way. They just don't know how to say it. After all, it's our caramel.
It's caramel.
Ugh, that makes a Milky Way great.
You start my morning, you stir in my soul, you warm my heart, make me feel whole. Your aroma calls me, starts my morning, happy morning. Your name is Folgers Mountain Grown, now you're here.